7 years after it caused earth tremors near Blackpool, fracking for shale gas is set to restart in Lancashire in the next couple of days. Campaigners opposed to Quadrilla's operations at Preston New Road failed in a legal attempt to stop it in the High Court earlier today. It has been a long and controversial journey to this point. Last month, 3 men were jailed for their part in the protests. But the wells are now ready to frack, as Annabelle said, and our environment correspondent Judy Hobson is at the site for us live this evening. Judy, it could start tomorrow, but maybe not. Just explain why.
That's right. Well, it's ironic, isn't it, that after all the legal wrangling that's been going on for, let's face it, years, it could be the weather that delays fracking. Now, there's been very strong winds here today, so I think you can probably see that the top of the crane behind me, that's not been operating, which means that they've not been able to do the work, the preparation work they wanted to. Quadrilla say it's 75% more likely to be happening on Monday. Small chance fracking could start tomorrow.
And just remind us, Judy, about what this case in the High Court today was all about.
Well, this was brought by 2 anti-fracking campaigners, and they said that there was no plan in place to evacuate residents should something go horribly wrong at the site. What they were talking about was a gas explosion, explosion from the well, known as a blowout. Now, Quadrilla argued that this site has all the regulations that it needed by the HSE and by the Environment Agency, and it was a medium-risk site. Therefore, it didn't need those plans in place. And today, the judge at the High Court said he agreed. He said there was no serious case to answer.
We're going to hear from some of the people who live closest to the site in just a minute, Judy, but what was the reaction to the judge's ruling today?
Well, as you can imagine, very disappointed. There were some tears, although realistically, many of them knew that there was a chance that this wouldn't go in their favour. And what they have said is that they're defiant and they will carry on coming here every day and trying to stop this industry.
Yeah, Quadrilla said it costs them almost £100,000 a day, doesn't it, while they're sitting there waiting to start this process. What happens now?
Well, we wait to see when fracking happens. When it does, it lasts 90 minutes. They're going to frack in stages. And just to remind you what will be going on under my feet, there's already a well drilled. It's 2 kilometres down. It's 800 metres across, right in front of me, the well heads. And basically they put sand, water, a small amount of polyacrylamide into the fractured rocks, and that forces gas back to the surface. It will be a big moment for the industry, because in Europe as well, they'll be looking to see what happens here, because this could be the beginning of a shale gas industry in the UK.
Judy, thanks. I know you'll be there over the weekend to follow developments. Judy Hobson there. Now, we've heard many times the views of Quadrilla and of those who are opposed to the fracking industry. But as Lancashire prepares for the UK's first fracking since 2011, what are the views of those who will be on the industry's doorstep? Yes, Peter Marshall has been to meet 2 Preston New Road residents whose homes are among the closest to Quadrilla's fracking site.
74-year-old Rod Knight always wanted his own kennels.
Good dog.
He's always worked with dogs, spending 22 years in the Royal Army Veterinary Corps as a trainer. So the kennels he established after leaving the army in the 80s are precious to him. But in recent years, he's had new neighbours. Who's been the best neighbour, Quadrilla or the protesters?
Quadrillas bother me less than the protesters. I haven't had trouble with Quadrilla. But that's not to say that I wanted them to be here.
Because you didn't?
No, I didn't. I'd have rather it not happened. But like most things in life, we're in a democracy. We go through the laws. They've gone through the justice system, whether I think it's right or wrong.
His home and business is amongst the closest to the fracking site. The kennel boundary is bottom left of screen as we head towards Preston New Road, with the fracking site in the field beyond. Who would you rather left, the protesters or Quadrilla?
Personally, I like them both to leave, but at this moment in time, up to now, I've had more trouble with the protesters. And I'm not knocking the local people that protested, stood on the road, signed, nothing against them. It's the, what would I say, professional protesters that come here. And really, it's a game to them.
Do you not feel that they are fighting for democracy?
They might be, but there's ways of doing things. And jumping on wagons, stopping a bloke working, isn't, in my opinion, a way to do it.
Susan Holliday moved into her home off Preston New Road 11 years ago. She liked the rural surrounding, her garden. The arrival of Quadrilla, she says, has changed her life.
The drilling took about a year for the 2 wells that they've done, and it was basically 24/7, especially through the summer when we've been sat out in the evenings in the garden. Then we've heard the noise from the drill, which isn't particularly pleasant because it's a noise that sounded much like a siren.
Quadrilla says noise levels haven't been breached. Susan has campaigned against the industry. She's concerned about seismic activity and any potential environmental effects of commercial fracking.
What was a clean environment, what was one of the better environments in the country from an air quality point of view, we don't know how it's going to be impacted by fracking, but I do know one thing, that it's not going to be for the better. So that's a concern.
Quadrilla and its supporters say fracking will bring jobs, investment and financial benefits to this community. But for those next door to the industry, the future remains uncertain.
Well, we still love our home, we still love our garden, it's just what's around it now. And unfortunately we're in the position that we're probably unable to sell and so unable to move because nobody wants to buy a property that's next to a frack site.
Peter Marshall, BBC North West Tonight.